Hey YouTube, it's Kirk over here. Another series of videos up, presentation that I gave to a class on Proposition 8, its rise and fall. And before you look at the video, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, huge thanks to my two co-presenters, Kieth and Hilary, and also huge thanks to ProfMTH, prominent YouTuber and all-around brilliant guy whose videos on Proposition 8 were really an amazing and extremely useful starting point for the research we did for our presentation. And if you don't want to sit through my presentation, you should at least look at his excellent videos, which I will link to down in the sidebar, or the bottom bar, I guess it is now. And I will say this, it's about a 45-minute presentation. I understand you don't want to sit through that, that's fine, but do me one favor. If you see this, if you've watched this far, you might enjoy the whole thing. You never know. I'm one of those people where I could sit and watch something like this. It's not really made to be entertaining, but I could sit and watch this and be entertained. And also, at least check out the second video. If you want to stop this video right here and turn around, just check out the second video, because ponage is a word I don't throw around very often. Just about any time I've ever heard anyone say the word ponage, I always think to myself, I don't see it. You didn't pwn anybody. But there is a really spectacular example of ponage that happens right around the middle of the second video, and between myself and a member of the audience sitting toward the front, and I think you'll get a kick out of that. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the video.
It's a brand new Right Obama Day. What a time to be Marc or gay. No, nothing could go wrong, so join us in this song of happy days for the gays. Nothing can go wrong.
Look, nobody's watching. It's time to spread some hate and put in the Constitution.
Now!
Proposition 8.
Proposition 8, right. People listen to our plea. They'll teach kids about
Sodomy.
That wasn't right, that's a lie.
But it works, so we don't care.
Now you wish we'd all shut up.
But make our clothes and fix our hair.
And our love's not a sin.
Well, the Bible says it's so.
Well, the Bible says a lot of things,
Jesus Christ!
Hey, how's it going?
Jesus, doesn't the Bible say these people are an abomination?
Abomination!
Yeah, but it says the exact same thing about this shrimp cocktail.
Shrimp cocktail!
Leviticus says shellfish is an abomination.
Abomination!
What else does the Bible say, Jesus?
The Bible says a lot of interesting things. Like you can stone your wife or sell your daughter into slavery.
Well, we ignore those verses.
Well then, friend, it seems to me you pick and choose. Well, please choose love instead of hate. Besides, your nation was built on separation of church and state. See you later, sinners.
I love you, Jesus.
Here's another thought to wrap things up. Oh, every time a gay or lesbian finds love at the parade, there's money to be made.
He's right.
Time to groom, say, paint that wedding hall, and lavender's the shade. There's money to be made.
That's a point.
Think of all the carriages and full-of horses. There's millions lost from all your disapproving.
Well, that's not good.
Think of all the lawyers for the gay divorces. Think of the tattoo removing.
We get it now! We make such moves!
I can see America's calling me. Yes, gay marriages will save the economy.
So what do we think of that? We'll work on the technical stuff. Is anybody here is familiar with the story of Proposition 8? Does anyone think that this video is a good summary of what happened? Or not?
I don't know what Proposition is.
Okay, great. Is there anyone else who is familiar with it, maybe even just a little bit, and has...
Isn't it the legislation passed in the state of California after they legalized gay marriage, and now it's the legislation that made it gay?
Sort of. It wasn't actual legislation, it was a ballot initiative, but for all intents and purposes, yeah, you're essentially right. Is there a hand? Well, Heather, why don't you tell everybody about Proposition?
Okay. June 2nd, 2008, the ballot initiative was approved by the fall election in California. Proposition 8 was called and sought to amend the California Constitution, adding a provision saying, quote, only marriage between a man and a woman is recognized in the state of California. The campaigns for and against Proposition 8 totaled over $80 million, which surpassed every campaign in that election year, which excludes the presidential race. Proposition 8 was approved by 52% of California voters, thus becoming law. Almost 2 years later, on August 4th, 2010, Judge Walker overturned the Proposition 8 in Perry versus Schwarzenegger, allowing same-sex couples in California to get married again. Okay. There are two big parts to the 14th Amendment, due process and equal protection. Due process protects against deprivation of life, liberty, and property without due process. Specifically, fundamental rights.
These are the issues that you look at court.
Yeah.
In Perry v. Schwarzenegger, which just concluded on the court of law this past year. So it's very recent.
You are saying the U.S. Constitution, California Constitution.
Well, the legislation was an amendment for the ballot initiative. It was an amendment to the California Constitution in the first place. This court case was made based on reading of the U.S. Constitution.
Well, the freedom to marry is a fundamental right protected by the Due Process Clause. They were saying that the central purpose of marriage in California and everywhere else is to promote naturally procreative sexual relationships, to channel them into stable, enduring unions for the sake of producing and raising the next generation. When they were asked, how does permitting same-sex marriage impair or adversely affect that interest, they just simply replied that they didn't know. Judge Walker found that the proponents didn't make a case at all. Okay. And then the second part, equal protection, is a little bit more difficult. No state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection laws. The proponents of Proposition 8 made these 5 arguments for legitimate government interests in denying same-sex couples the right to marry.
The first argument that they made, these are 5 arguments that were made by the proponents. Go ahead, sorry. The value of preserving the traditional union, meaning, and purpose of marriage. In other words, they were suggesting that California has a state interest in preserving the traditional definition of marriage, that is between a man and a woman. The finding in court, and it's summed up nicely by Judge Walker, the ancient lineage of a classification doesn't make it rational. In other words, and I would think that even any freshman philosophy student would be able to because something is traditional or has been done for a very long time does not make it a good idea or rational or legitimate in a constitutional republic like ours. The next major argument that was made was, number 2, the importance of proceeding with caution when implementing social change. Now, like the first one, this seems really silly on its face because, you know, if that was going to be our reasoning for not implementing social change at all, then nothing would ever change. And it's more especially egregious in this case because the state of California had been licensing homosexual marriages, or same-sex marriages, for quite a while prior to Proposition 8's enactment in 2008. For about 18,000 couples had already been married in the state of California. So this argument was just very spurious in this case. And then Judge Walker found that to be the case as well.
The third one is legitimacy of promoting opposite-sex parenting over same-sex parenting. First of all, same-sex parenting over opposite-sex parenting. There have been studies that have shown that there simply is no difference. That if a child has two parents, obviously they'll be better off than just having a single parent. And in that way, if it's same sex or opposite sex, with two parents, you'll be getting two incomes. With one parent, you'll be getting one. If you're going to have opposite sex parenting, if you have two parents, you'll be getting two incomes. There's nothing really different.
Let's have a look at the arguments that were made. David Blankenhorn was the expert witness for proponents of Proposition 8. And when asked to justify his qualification to speak on the topic of same-sex marriage, it was reading articles and having conversations with people and trying to be an informed person about it. Now, that sounds like the kind of qualification you could say about practically anyone on practically any issue. I'm sure there's a guy somewhere in a gas station who thinks that they faked the moon landing, and his expertise on that topic is based on reading articles, having conversations with people, and trying to be an informed person about it. So right off the bat, Blankenhorn has no credibility as an expert witness. He also proposed that the body of evidence supports the conclusion that children raised by their married biological parents do better on average than children raised in other environments. And he cited a study called Marriage from a Child's Perspective: How Does Family Structure Affect Children and What Can We Do About It? Unfortunately, that study only compared children raised by married biological parents with children raised by single parents, unmarried mothers, and stepfamilies, and cohabitating parents, not same-sex couples. There was, as Hilary pointed out, no study done whatsoever that supported his opinion. Now, the fourth argument made by proponents is, to my opinion, the most disturbing, which is the right of the people to pass legislation banning same-sex marriage democratically. That their First Amendment right to speak, to gather, to debate on this issue somehow gives them the right to tell other people what they can and can't do with their lives. Now, I think it should be pretty clear that Proposition 8 does not affect any First Amendment right, in the words of Judge Walker, when he found that this was not a legitimate government interest that would override the protection of the